Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. We're going to start in just a moment, but while we're waiting for other people to join, just literally maybe a minute or two, I just wanted to ask you a very quick question. Where are you in your studies? Where are you in this whole application process? Please share this with us. We would love to know. There's a very quick poll that we've just launched, and then we're going to start literally in about 60 seconds. Well, good morning again, ladies and gentlemen. I know we have a lot of international students joining us as well. So good afternoon or good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. Thank you so much for joining us, and thanks so much for answering these questions in a poll. As we could see, many of you are just starting this application journey. So we definitely would want to make sure that we pack as much as possible for you in the next 1 hour. My name is Sergey. I am one of the principals at the company called AdmitMaster, which is a Canadian admissions consultant test preparation company. And I'm so happy to be joined today by Yan Du from the McGill Hotels Faculty of Management. What we're going to do today, ladies and gentlemen, is we'll talk about the GMAT. And I know you came here to learn about the GMAT. Nobody really does the GMAT just because they want to do the GMAT. The GMAT, of course, is a part of the entire application process to master's level programs. So I can imagine that you came here not just because you want to do the GMAT, but because it's actually a means for you to get into these master's level programs. And that is why we're going to begin today by talking about what kinds of master level programs exist, and what are the admissions requirements, what you can actually potentially get in return, just so you can put things in perspective. And maybe get a little bit of a motivation to study for the GMAT. And then I'm going to come in about 15, 20 minutes or so, and give you some ideas of the GMAT, how to study for the GMAT, what's the difference between the current and the new version, and we'll show you some questions and some examples. So thanks so much again for joining us. If you have any questions, then really the best thing you could do is you could either use a chat, and you should be able to post any message in the chat or in a Q&A box. I noticed that some of you raised the hand, so please put your question in the chat box, and we'll make sure that we address this question. Without further ado, please help me welcome Yan Du, who's going to talk about the application process overall and how the GMAT fits into this process. So thanks so much, Yan, for joining us today.
Thank you, Sergey. So hello, everyone. My name is Yan Du. I'm the Master's Programs Recruiter at this Hotels Faculty of Management at McGill University. So really nice to meet you. Thank you for joining us today. So I will give you a very brief overview of the four programs that we have. So the MBA and the Masters of Management in Analytics, Finance, and Retailing. So please feel free to reach out to me following today's info session if you have any questions about anything I present today. So I hope that you find this presentation will be helpful for you. Go to the next page. All right, so McGill University is a home to over 40,000 students from 160 countries. So there are also over 260,000 McGill alumni around the world. So we are pleased to constantly rank among the top schools in the world and reputed for excellence in teaching and research. So I would like to, first of all, briefly overview our three specialized Masters of Management programs, so which are the MMA in Analytics, Finance, and Retailing. So I encourage you to register for upcoming information session where the individual program directors will be giving an overview of their program. So you can also visit our website for additional information, any programs that you are most interested. So students who apply to our programs come from very different academic backgrounds. Each program has a very unique experiential learning module that complement the in-class learning and allow the student to apply what they have learned in the classroom into a real world. So I will speak about those opportunities later in the presentation as I go through each of the program one by one. So the application requirements for the three programs are similar, but do differ slightly for each program. So I do recommend you verify each of those requirements for different programs that you are interested in advance of starting your application. So speak with a representative or attend info session so that you are not left rushing to complete the requirements, such as writing the GMAT test, for example. So let's start with the MMA, Master of Management in Analytics. So this program is best suited to students who have technical skills or who are interested in studying analytics from a business or management perspective. So the program caters to individuals with an undergraduate degree in any discipline, so who want to be part of the digital and technological wave, and who have a strong interest in emerging field of big data, analytics, and AI from a strategic perspective. So the Masters of Management in Analytics is an intensive full-time 1-year pre-experience program with a strong emphasis to experiential learning. So the curriculum strikes a balance between advanced statistics, technology, and business strategy to give the student a broad range of practical skills and perspectives. So this program offered as a 12-month program and offers a 1.5-year option that includes an internship for students who are interested in gaining additional professional experience prior to graduation. So the MMA is based on 3 pillars: statistics, technology, and business strategy. So it aims to bridge the gap between business leaders and technical leaders. So the program was designed to pull the feature from programs such as MBA and also the development programs such as the Science Master in Data Science. So technically strong students can get to learn the true business acumen required as success in the market. And then strategically strong students get to learn the need-to-know technology and skills to gain the expertise required to be valuable to organizations around the globe. So a core to the Masters of Management in Analytics program, the experiential learning module has MMA students are working alongside industry professionals solving a significant data and analytics problem, so aimed to boost the client's top or bottom lines. So all students are undertake a technical consulting role by working in teams with real companies and attempting to solve a live data-driven problem. So you will produce an analytic solution over 10 months. So practice using real data and market-leading software and benefit from industry mentorship and faculty coaching. So this will provide the students with a really great training for the job market. So our MMA program is now available online. So the application for our very first MMA online program cohort is now open. So the MMA programs online delivery intake is only in winter. So it always starts in January. The first cohort is going to start January 2024, and then you are not able to get to the first cohort, you need to apply for the one that is starting on 2025 January. So compared to the in-person program, the online program is a flexible part-time program. The courses are delivered online in the evening or on weekends. So there will be synchronous or asynchronous sessions. So focus on solution development. The GMAT has been waived for the winter 2024 intake for the MMA online program. So if you're interested in the MMA online program, now is the great time to apply. So moving on to the MMA program now, the McGill Masters of Management in Finance degree is a pre-experienced, specialized master in finance that can be complete also in 12 or 16 months. So the MMF program prepares students for a career in finance through a comprehensive curriculum that integrates advanced finance concepts and quantitative method with a real-world business practice. So the interactive finance project is the core concept of the program. So it provides the opportunity to immediately put into practice the skills and knowledge that students acquired in the classroom. So students fulfill this requirement in 3 overlapping stages. Upon entry into the program, students join Digital Capital Management as an analyst, so also known as DCM. So DCM is a licensed and regulated asset management firm, which with the independent board of directors and external investors. So as the analysts, students are responsible for a particular sector, identifying investment opportunities and pitching them to colleagues. In addition, students are also responsible for dealing with regulatory issue, compliance, trading, and execution, back office settlement, preparation and filling of the financial statement, and also communication with the clients. So another component is the professional seminar series. So seminars will be held regularly to expose the students to current issue and practice in financial markets. So the seminars will be given by professionals from different industries, for example, the hedge fund, pension fund, tax or legal accountants, and so on, and will provide a very unique networking opportunities as well. So for the final project, students will be work on a financial topic of their choice under supervision of a faculty member. So throughout the project, students will have the opportunity to think independently and creatively about an important financial topic, apply their quantitative skills and their showcase marketable skill sets in an area of your interest. So you can see the Digital's MMF students really benefit from experiential learning through a multitude of initiatives. So moving forward to the Masters of Management in Retailing. So this is our newest addition to the MMF programs. Our first cohort began in the fall of 2021. So we just had our first cohort graduated, a very new program. So the Masters of Management in Retailing is an intensive full-time, also 12 to 16 months pre-experienced program with a strong emphasis on experiential learning. So it also features a 3-month internship program. So students who already have extensive retail background can complete the program in 12 months by working on a professor-led research practicum. The MMR consists of 4 modules. So the number one is the core, and then number two, the complementary courses, and then the experiential module. So this experiential module is designed to provide students with the experience of a hands-on application of a concept taught in the real world setting, and then the opportunity to interact with practitioner in leading retail organizations. And then comes to the number four, the sector module. So that is designed to give students an opportunity to dive deeper into a specific concentration. So the sector concentration includes fintech and financial services, intelligent mobility, food and grocery, or entertainment and hospitality, and of course the fashion and beauty. So the this module has McGill's MMR students exploring many unique retail experiences. So this is achieved by school year retail project, the global retail challenge, the internship program, the McGill retail summit, also an international study trip, and the retail innovation lab. So a very exciting note about the our MMR program is located on the ground floor of our Bronfman building. The Retail Innovation Lab offers omni-channel retail activities in a live and an open setting to serve the McGill and downtown communities. So it fosters the collaboration between interdisciplinary and inter-faculty academics and key players in retail, so emerging technology and startups. So it is the one of the Canada's first retail laboratory store open to the public. Also one of the first retail laboratory stores in North America, in which a university and a retailer has partnered to advance research in retail management. Also one of the first fictionalist store in Canada. So it is currently being renovated and expand and incorporate many new products into the connected section. The MMR program also has two options, so you can choose 12 or 16 months, as I mentioned previously. So the program delivery is straightforward and aim to integrate theory and practice for its students. And last but certainly not least is our full-time MBA program. So to be eligible to apply to McGill's MBA program, you must have at least 2 years of postgraduate work experience. So after your undergraduate. So we will also need your transcript, your CV. There are 3 essay questions, 2 reference letters from professional resources, GMAT or GRE, and then the language test if needed. So there will also be an interview by invitation only. You can find all the detailed information on our website about applying to the program, or you can reach out to me if you have any personal questions. So the MBA at these hotels was redesigned in 2019 and allows the student to tailor their study to meet their career goal and needs. So there are 3 flexible options available for the program. We have the 1-year program, which is 48 credits. So it is great if you are looking to get your MBA in a short time frame and then, for example, stay within the same organization. So there's the 54 credit option can be complete in either 16 months or 20 months. As you can see, the difference between those 1 year and 2 years program is really in terms of the experiential learning opportunities. So you have the option of doing, for example, an internship or a practicum for the 2 years program. And then if you do the 20-month option, you can see there's a couple of extra semesters available. So you could have the option to do an exchange semester for that option. So another way in which our MBA is tailor your study to meet your specific career goal and interest is by offering 5 flexible specializations. So there are 5 specializations that students can choose from, including global strategy and leadership, marketing, entrepreneurship, finance, and business analytics. So a specialization is a great way to differentiate yourself from other candidates in the job market and bring added value to an organization. So you also have the option of choosing classes from maybe all of those different areas to just get a general management degree. So the experiential learning opportunity that our MBA students may enjoy are including a 10-day international study trip in which all of our students have to participate. So it is part of the program. So everyone have to take that trip. There's an exchange with our partner schools. So depending on where you are interested to go, you can choose one of our partner from. You can choose from one of our partner schools to reach out or networking with the geolocation that you are interested. And then there's an internship. So an internship provides students with a hands-on practice and valuable industry experience. And there's a practicum is where the students complete a specialized project under the guidance of a faculty member. So as my time draw to the close, I wanted to share some of the statistics with you regarding on the employment, which is always of interest to our applicants. So for our MMA program, 100% of our students were placed in the job market within 16 months after their graduation. And then MBA students had 94% placement within 3 months of graduation. MMF students saw 98% placement within 6 months of graduation. So these are all wonderful statistics, and our career service really play a huge role with our students in offering workshops to have different skills such as presentation skills and interview skills. All of our students will be paired with a career coach starting from day one when they join the program. So many different networking opportunities and events are also organized by the career service team for our students across all the MMM programs and our MBA. So here are some snapshots of our cohort profile for different programs. So they are all available on our website. You can take a look at and see how you can fit into our classroom. So this is for the specialized master's program, and this is for the MBA program. All right, so here's the tuition fee for different programs for the 2024 entering class. So all applicants are automatically considered for the entrance scholarship. So no separate application is required for the internal scholarships. So your application for the program will be your application for these internal scholarships. So here are some of the deadlines for all the programs. So as you can see, for the MMA online program, the final deadline is on December 1st, which is really close. So if you are interested in that program, so make sure that you do apply before December 1st. So for those of you who are interested, please visit our website for additional information, such as admission requirements and deadlines. So I hope that you have found this information helpful in giving you a little overview of our 3 specialized master program and MBA program. So you are always welcome to connect me or my colleague Sebastian with questions you may have or anything that I have spoken about today. The website is also over there. You can go to the website and then choose the program you are interested to get a lot of details. So I wish all the best of luck with your studies. Thank you.
thank you so much, Jan, for sharing all this information. I see there are a few questions in the Q&A box and the chat box. Not to worry, we are going to get to all of your questions. And if necessary, we're going to stay afterwards. Jan, are you available to stay a little bit more than one, just in case we have more questions? Okay, perfect.
Sure.
So in this case, what I'd like to do is over the next 20 minutes or so, to share with you some of the tips and strategies of how to prepare for the GMAT. I'll give you a couple of ideas of what to expect on the GMAT, how the GMAT is changing. We're going to try to be very, very quick. So let me share with you some of the ideas about preparing for the GMAT. Please let me know if you see my slides. Just let me know in the chat box, please. Yes, okay, perfect. Yeah, okay, wonderful. So I wanted to show you a couple of questions on the GMAT, and then we'll talk about how do you actually prepare for this test and talk a little bit about the structure. So here's a typical example of what's called the quantitative reasoning question. As you could see, some numbers on the screen. So these questions involve some numbers or some sort of computations. You're given a situation. Sometimes it's a pure math question. Sometimes it's a question that's written in English. In this specific case, the question is saying we have a farm and the ratio of pigs to chickens on this farm is 13 to 28. Then we go ahead and add 15 more pigs to the farm and the ratio of pigs to chickens became 4 to 7. What was the original total number of pigs and chickens on the farm? Okay, so see, there was probably a way of how you've done this or these types of questions before back in high school or the middle school or the elementary school. So here's what we normally done. We said, okay, there's the ratio is 13 to 28, so we need to assign a multiplier. So we have 13 n pigs and 28 chickens. And then we calculate the new ratio, find the n, solve for n, multiply all of these numbers, figure out the answer. It happens to be one of the answers among the answer choices. And that's how we do the question, right? So that's how most of us have done. Here is the challenge. The challenge is that on the day of the test, you have only 2 minutes from the moment that you see the question to the moment that you have to move on to the next question. During these 2 minutes, you have to understand what is going on, what are you going to do, actually solve the problem or find the answer, confirm the answer, and then move on. The time is very, very short. So very often we don't have time to do all of these calculations. And remember, it takes some time to read the question, it takes them some time to figure out what is it that you're going to do. Now, back in school, when we did maybe our homework, we didn't really have these time constraints, but now we do. So how is it possible that the GMAT's asking us to do something that's a lot more difficult and challenging than what we did in school? Well, the reason why they do this is that they don't really want to assess how well we know math. Instead, they want to assess how well we can think a little bit outside the box. Let me give you an example of how you can think differently about this question. So when you look at this question, if you've been properly trained to study, if you've been properly trained for the GMAT exam and you know what to expect, you're going to look at this and immediately say, oh, I'm dealing with ratio problems. And the ratio problems mean certain things, or the ratios that are given to me mean certain very specific things. What they mean is that because I have a ratio of 13 to 28, essentially, and I cannot have half a pig, for every 13 pigs, I have 28 chickens. So what this means is that I immediately will recognize that the number of pigs will be divisible by 13, the number of chickens must be divisible by 28, and the total number of animals together must be divisible by 41. As soon as I recognize this, I look through the answer choices. I see that they're pretty close to each other. The difference between them is only from 200 to 220. So only one of them could be divisible by 41. And it's not that hard to understand which one. 40 times 5 is approximately, well, 5 times 40 is 200. So 41 times 5 is going to actually be 205. The math here, the mental math is fairly simple, and I can do this in 30 seconds, right? So you might look at this and say, wow, that's very easy. And of course, it becomes easy if you know what you're doing. And that's the biggest challenge. And I'll tell you exactly how you can get to recognizing very quickly and actually doing this. And then you have to move on to the next question and the next question and the next question. And over the period of just under 3 hours, you have to deal with 80 questions. So these are quantitative reasoning questions. Let me show you a verbal reasoning question. It says, the statement above in boldface plays which of the following roles in the ethicist argument? Okay, so the argument itself says ethicist. By the way, I don't know if you've ever met a person by the profession of ethicist. You can think of this as a university professor who maybe teaches ethics to MBA students. So here's an ethicist. It would be a mistake to say that just because someone is not inclined to do otherwise, she or he does not deserve to be praised for doing what's right. For although it is true that we do consider people especially virtuous if they successfully resist the desire to do what's wrong, they're certainly no less virtuous if they have succeeded in extinguishing all such desires. Wow, I read this fairly quickly, and you might wonder, well, I probably read this so quickly just because I really understand what the author is saying. And the answer is, that's actually not true. I don't understand what the author is saying. And you might wonder, well, how can I actually answer this question without really understanding what the author is saying? Raise your hand if you can fully understand what I've just read, because that's about how much time you have to read this question. Right? And it's certainly a question that goes very deep into the subject of ethics. And Jan will keep me honest here. I think if you're trying to get into a business school, you definitely have to be ethical, but you don't have to be an ethicist. You can be an engineer or a business analyst or an IT professional or a marketing person, but you don't necessarily have to be an expert in ethics, right? So how is it that we can answer this question? Well, the GMAT's a multiple choice exam. So look through the answer choices. I'll give you about 15 seconds to look through the answer choices here. Would notice that the answer choices don't really talk that much about ethics, which is what makes this test somewhat unique and somewhat strange. As you can imagine, most of the tests will evaluate how well you know something. So if this was a test in the class of, let's say, philosophy class or ethics class, you actually need to understand what's the difference between being especially virtuous or resist the desire to do what's wrong. But here, the answer choices, most of them don't even use any words related to the ethics. Because if you go back to the question, and again, it's a fairly typical GMAT verbal reasoning question, you'll see that the question is asking us the statement above in boldface. So there's a statement there that begins with words for although it is true, plays some sort of a role in the argument, and we're being asked which role. Okay, so notice that the question isn't asking what is it saying, it's asking what role does it play. So if you want to answer this question, what role does it play, we need to focus on very different things. We need to focus on the structure of an argument as opposed to the content of an argument. And here is how this argument is structured. Essentially, the author by saying somebody is wrong and I'm right. In other words, it would be a mistake to say something whatever these other people say. Okay, that's what we call the main opinion or the main point or a claim or a conclusion of an argument, right? The author essentially is making a point or expressing an opinion. And because it's an argument, the argument essentially consists of an opinion and some sort of a reason why I believe that opinion. That's why it's called an argument. So what comes next, what comes after this first initial opinion or initial claim is actually the reason why the author believes that, right? And in this specific case, the author is saying, even though this is true, and I do agree with some part of the reasoning of these people, I do still disagree with what they're saying, right? So that's essentially the basic structure of this argument. Now, the question was about this part in bold, and we've just determined that this part in bold is actually the part that the author uses to support the main claim, and it's also used as an example that the author agrees with, right? So the author said, yes, this is true. I do agree. So the author can agree with essentially a part of an argument. Okay, so notice again, we haven't spoken about ethics at all. All we determined is that that statement in bold supports the main claim, and the author agrees with this part in bold, even though the author disagrees with the claim of these other people, whom he or she is saying made a mistake. So now we go through the answer choices. And see, now we're already equipped with the analysis of what's going on here. We didn't have any numbers, so it's not a math problem. So we need to analyze the structure of the English language. And when I do this in class, when we have a little bit more time, usually the most popular answer is answer choice C. And if you look at C, it says, it is a faulty claim. Well, what is a faulty claim? That part in bold was a faulty claim? Not really, because we said the author agreed with it. The author said, although it is true. For that reason, C is wrong. Also, D is wrong, because it says, according to the argument, that it is a commonly held opinion that is nevertheless false. E says it reports an observation that the argument claims is false. So see, I'm just plowing through the answer choices because I've determined that this is something that the author uses to support the claim, and it's something the author agrees with. That's all I need to know. When I'm down to 2 answer choices, I'm going to trust the GMAT that there's only one correct answer, and it's always the case. So once I'm down to 2 answer choices, I actually don't even have to read both of them. I'm just going to read one of them, and I'll read the one that's easier. I don't even care at this point which one I think is better. I'm going to analyze the one that's easier, and that's going to be answer choice A. It says, it is a claim for which the argument attempts to provide justification. Remember, the question was about the part in bold, and we said that is the support or the evidence to the main claim. It wasn't the claim itself. That's why A is not the correct answer, and B has to be the answer. Now, if you ask me, what does it mean to successfully resist the desires to do what's wrong, and are we especially virtuous? I'll tell you, I have no idea. I don't need to know that, because this question is done, and we pick the correct answer, and then we move on to the next question. And we have 36 of these questions in just over an hour. I have less than 2 minutes to deal with these types of questions. So you might wonder then, what would it take for me to get a good score? What would it take for me to get a score of, let's say, 700 that will help me get into a competitive school such as McGill, would help me potentially to get some good jobs after my graduation, and maybe get a very nice entrance award when I get into the business school? There are all kinds of benefits from getting a higher GMAT score. So what would it take? Now, do I just need to learn a lot about ethics? Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's ask, not me, not Sergey from AdmitMaster, let's ask the GMAT. These are the people who make the test. Here's what they say. They say, well, this is a very different test. And the interesting thing, and I'll show you some statistics, that most people misunderstand what the test is about. They think it's a test about business or the test about maybe ethics, and they need to know something related to the business, but it's actually not a test of business, and it's not a test of any subject matter. It is a test of higher order reasoning skills. That's what the GMAT calls them. So essentially, you need to look through the question, use your logic to find the correct answer, choose it confidently, move on to the next question. You do need to have some basic knowledge of geometry, algebra, statistics, a bit of English language, but you don't really need to be an expert. All of this is about is your ability to demonstrate a different level of reasoning skills. So essentially, if you've ever heard the phrase knowledge is power, anybody heard knowledge is power? Let me know in the chat box, please. If you've ever heard this, maybe from your teachers or maybe in the kindergarten or school, yeah, of course, many people say yes. That is not true anymore. Certainly not true in the GMAT. And even in our everyday life, it's not true anymore because look, if I don't know something, all I need is a Google search, honestly, or Wikipedia. I don't really need to know a lot. I just need to be able to use that information. So I'm going to use an analogy. I'll give you a few analogies because I'll help you understand how you can actually approach this test. That's really our objective here, is to set you up with a plan of how you can actually achieve your goals. If we never speak again, then at least you're going to have a plan. And if we do have a chance to speak again, they're going to work together on your plan. So imagine the GMAT being a sport. Let's say you want to learn how to swim. Well, traditional wisdom says all you have to do is read the book, gain the knowledge, and you're going to be powerful. But you know that doesn't work anymore. Right? You need to actually invest some time and effort, and maybe sweat, and maybe some money, and certainly a lot of time into learning the different strategies and techniques, and then practicing enough. Because again, because you have so little time per question, technically, it's not even fair to think that we'll be able to logically reason through every single question. We need to be able to recognize different questions very, very quickly. And that's why this is going to require a lot of practice. And that's why I mentioned quite a lot of time. And I'll show you the exact steps you can take to actually do this. Now, let's talk very briefly about how the GMAT is changing. You might still potentially be on the fence of whether you should be taking the current version of the test or the new version of the test. So here's the difference between the old test, essentially, or the classic GMAT that's called actually just the GMAT, and the new GMAT that's called the GMAT Focus. So if you ever see any reference to the GMAT, that's actually the classic GMAT. So this is the classic GMAT. It consists of 4 sections, and you would notice, by the way, that all of these sections are designed to evaluate your analytical and your reasoning abilities. These 4 sections are all mandatory on the current test, so you can't skip any questions, you can't pick and choose. However, only 2 of these 4 sections, quantitative reasoning and verbal reasoning, actually will contribute towards the total score, 200 to 800. On the quantitative reasoning, you see 2 question types. One, problem solving, that the one that you've seen today with the chickens and pigs. And another one is data sufficiency, where you might be asked a similar question, but you don't actually need to find an answer. All you need is to figure out if it is possible to find the answer. And then on the verbal reasoning section, there are actually 3 question types. There's one that's asking you to correct a sentence, and there's usually some sort of a grammatical problem or a meaning problem in the sentence. There's also one that's asking you to deal with an argument, which is similar to what we've done today with our question about the ethicist. And there's also a question or a series of questions in reading comprehension, where you're given a passage about something you know nothing about and honestly don't want to know anything about, usually some sort of a complicated philosophy or science passage, and you asked a few questions about that passage. Again, don't need to know anything about that. Today, we have very limited time, but if you'd like to know more, then I'd like to encourage you to go on our website, admitmaster.com. You're going to see links to what we call GMAT Master Refresher and GMAT Verbal Refresher. So these are 1 to 2 hour classes where we look at a lot more questions, and we talk about different strategies that you can apply to different questions. So if you're interested to learning more about different question types, please make sure that you register for these classes. And it's going to also be on Zoom, and there's a variety of different times in a day or in a week. Now, here's something very important, is that these 2 sections on the current version of the test, the quantitative reason and the verbal reason sections, both contribute towards the total score. The total score is 200 to 800. And how they actually do that, or how the GMAT is able to assess your skills so quickly. Now, if you remember, if I show you the structure of the test one more time, you would notice that the quantitative reasoning, for example, has 31 questions in 62 minutes, and the scores assigned are 0 to 60. And the verbal reasoning has 36 questions in 65 minutes, so it's 1.8 minutes per question. So it's 1 minute 48 seconds per question. And the scores are also 0 to 60. Now, you might then wonder, how much does each question weigh? If I have 30 questions, essentially, and the scores are 0 to 60, does that mean that each question is worth 2 points? So if I get 10 questions, I get 20 points. I get 20 questions right, I get 40 points, and so on. And the answer is actually no. The GMAT is a very different test because it uses what's called the computer adaptive algorithm. You may have heard of computer adaptive learning, where essentially the difficulty of the questions adjusts as you go on. While the GMAT was one of the first and the earliest tests that started using the computer adaptive algorithm back at the end of 1990s. That's before some of you were even born, so about 25 years ago. That's when the GMAT became a computer adaptive test. Again, one of the first computer-based tests. Most of the tests before that were pen and paper, and some of the tests are still pen and paper, but the GMAT continues to adapt. So essentially what this means is that when you go for the test, if you want to get a high score, you will expect to see a lot of hard questions, which is very different from most other tests, right? You go for a pen and paper test, maybe even, for example, the LSAT, you know half of your questions are going to be easy. But on the GMAT, you can reasonably expect that at least half to 2/3 of your questions are going to be hard if you want to get a high score. That's what makes it a fairly challenging test. Now, you might wonder, okay, well, I've heard that the GMAT is changing. So how is it changing? Yeah, let's talk about that. There's a new GMAT focus that has been introduced earlier this year and has been available on the market for the past week. So the first day when you could have taken GMAT focus in November 7th. So the GMAT focus will now be available for the foreseeable future. The GMAT focus is only 2 hours and 15 minutes. So you might look at this and say, wow, that's a much better test. It's shorter. Instead of 3 hours, 7 minutes, now I have only 2 hours, 15 minutes. Instead of 4 sections, it consists of only 3. So now there's quantitative reasoning section, verbal reasoning section, and the data insight section. No essay. Well, you might look at this and say, wow, I hate essays. I definitely will need to take the GMAT focus. Well, not to worry. We're going to talk about which test you might potentially want to take in just a moment. Here are a couple of more tidbits about the new test. You can take these 3 sections in any order, and there's only one 10-minute break. On the current version of the test, there are 2 breaks. They're 8 minutes, but that's enough for you to go out, use a washroom, eat something, and then come back. On the new test, there's only one 10-minute break. Some things are removed. For example, the essay is removed. Also, some questions are removed. For example, the entire topic of sentence correction gets removed. So only critical reasoning and reading comprehension will remain. But here's something else, though, that's very important to know, that now all 3 sections become adaptive, and all of them become a part of the total score. So if in the past, for example, integrated reasoning questions that many people consider very hard because of the time management issue, because you have so much data to deal with within a very, very short time, now that section becomes adaptive, it becomes part of a total score, and you generally have less time per question. So yes, the exam is getting shorter, but is it going to be easier to get a higher score? Well, let's take a look at the score scales. As you could see on the current version of the test, the score of 700, which is achieved by approximately 10% of people, on the new version of the test, it will be only 645. And if you'd like to get a score above 700 on the new version of the test, it's kind of like getting 760 on the old version of the test. And just for the record, it's very difficult to get a score of 760. Very, very difficult. Somebody was asking, is this exam free? No, the exam is $300 to take the test every time you take the test. So you definitely, before you go for the test, you want to make sure that you're ready for the test, because there's no discount for repeat test taking. So ladies and gentlemen, you need to plan accordingly, and you need to really plan to prepare for this test. Again, I'm going to give you the step-by-step process of how to prepare, talk about different resources in just a moment. But here's the timeline. You can now prepare for either test, and you can now register for either test. You can take either test. However, the classic GMAT will end on January 31st, 2024. So you have approximately 2.5 months to take the classic version of the test. Now, is the GMAT getting easier? Well, it is getting shorter, but it's getting shorter by a few adjustments. One of the adjustments is some of the easier questions that take a little less time get removed. For example, sentence correction. I don't know about you, but I mean, I've obviously been teaching the GMAT now for 15 years. When I look at a sentence correction question, it rarely takes me more than 30 seconds. However, with critical reasoning, reading comprehension, there's no way that I can do them in 30 seconds. I do need that 2 minutes or very close to 2 minutes, sometimes even more. So by removing sentence correction, by giving us essentially on the balance less time per question, the GMAT is saying, well, we're going to make this test a little more challenging. And they do very similar things with quant as well. So shorter doesn't necessarily mean easier. That's essentially the message that I'm trying to tell you. And that is why, if you would like to get a score of 700, well, you could still potentially have an opportunity to take the current version of the test. Here's something really, really important, is the bank of questions from where questions get pulled for either test is exactly the same. It's just the algorithm of what questions are getting pulled from the data bank. There's several thousand questions from the data bank. Which questions get pulled for your exam and how the scores are calculated is what's going to change. Okay, so the question then becomes, well, how do I prepare for this test? What resources do I need? Well, again, here's the thing. If you were to come to our class, for example, sometimes people ask us, well, if you take your class, would I prepare for the current version of the test or the new version of the test? And the answer is both or either, because the questions are the same. Right? If you're going to go for GMAT focus, you might not have to learn sentence correction, but you might have to spend a lot more time practicing integrated reasoning questions because now they become a much bigger weight. So you're going to spend probably about the same amount of time on both of the exams. And if you think about, well, where should I start? Like, what should be the first step? Well, here's my recommendation. I'm going to tell you from my own experience. The first step that I took when I did my test, I just took a practice test. I didn't know where I'm starting from. I didn't really know what to expect. And when I did my test, there weren't really such webinars available. So I just went and did a test online. And I will share with you a link where you can take a free practice test. So the practice test doesn't cost you anything. For me, the first score was 650. And then I went through my report. I looked at what exactly I need to work on. Then I worked on this for some time. And then I did the next practice test. At the time when I did my test, only 2 practice tests were available. It was a while. It was in the early 2000s. So after taking these 2 practice tests, I got pretty close to where I need to be, went for the real test. I was very motivated to get a high score, worked very hard, and got a score of 750, and the whole process took me 2 weeks from start to finish. Now, I'm telling you this not to impress you. It honestly impresses me because I didn't know what to expect. But if you've heard any people who would post on YouTube, well, I studied for 2 weeks and I got a score of 750. And if you do what I did, you're going to get a score of 750 in 2 weeks as well. Please don't believe them. Because even though this is my true score. As you could see here, 750, this is my official score report. I am not a genius that somehow I've been able to study for 2 weeks. And it's not like I've used some silver bullet to prepare for the test. The reason why I was able to do the test so quickly is that I've been exposed to these strategies. I knew what's a units digit strategy. I knew the units digits of exponents. I knew the ratio strategies, the weighted average strategies, because in my elementary school and my high school, I had amazing teachers who taught this to me. And that's why at some point, I first became an engineer, a scientist, then I switched and I did my business degree. And after about 10 years in the corporate world, I decided that I'd rather help other people get into business school. So now I'm part of this network, a part of this community of GMAT instructors, and not too many of us right now that actually not just teach others the GMAT. So you can think of me as a coach that helps people perform extremely well on the test. Some of our students are getting some amazing scores. Like just yesterday, I was talking with one of our students who wanted to get a score somewhere in the mid 600s. And she just said, look, I just got above 700, 710. What can I now do with this amazing score? Right. So I love my job as a GMAT instructor. I also belong to a small close circle of the organizations that our organization at McMaster that has very good relationships with the GMAC. That's why you might have seen us at some of the GMAC events. Some of the other things like that they would sometimes mention us, and we actually go and visit them every year as well. So I've been teaching the GMAT for 15 years, and I can tell you, almost anybody can get a good score. Here's another example of Daria. She came to us, and her initial diagnostic score was fairly poor. It was well below average, 380. In just 3 months of studying, she got a score of 700. And you can go on Google, you can read lots of reviews. We have hundreds of 5-star reviews. And really the idea is don't just read the reviews and say Admit Master is amazing, but read these reviews and try to pick out what would actually be required to get these high scores. Here, Daria said, I learned how to think outside the box. I learned how to manage my time and stress. This is very important on the day of the test. The test is going to be stressful. It's not a pleasant experience, let me tell you. And how do you think differently? Essentially, how do you think like a CEO? Now, by telling you the test is difficult, I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just trying to prepare you. So let me show you a bit of statistics about the GMAT, just in case you're wondering. Every year, about 10 million people come to these workshops, seminars, do some research about MBA, maybe reach out to people like Jan and say, well, I'd really love to do a master's program. Of these 10 million people, about 2 million people will start preparing for the test. They'll buy a book, they'll borrow a book from a friend or library, they'll take some practice tests. And of these 2 million people, only about 5% will actually end up paying $300 and taking the real test. And it's often not the matter of money, it's more of a matter of, am I ready for the test? And of these people, only about 10%, a little bit more than 10% will actually get a score above 700. So I want to be very honest with you. If you ever hear somebody telling you, wow, it's so easy, and many of us, I would love to tell you that many of our students get very high scores. There's a company online. I'm not going to tell you the name of the company. I'm sure you know what it is. It starts with a T. If you go on our website, they're going to tell you the average score of our students is 730. And many people look at this and say, wow, that's really an amazing program. So I guess, if the average is 730, I have a 50% chance of getting above 730, right? So I'd like to encourage you to really look at the fine print, because in this specific case, they're saying 730 is an average reported GMAT score. And if you look even deeper, you'll recognize that less than 1% of their clients report the scores. So 730 is an average of less than 1%. So that's why, ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you, this is a hard test. But if you have the right structure, the right strategies, and the right support, you can definitely achieve a 700 plus score. Now, we do keep track of success of our students. We're very transparent about this. The average score of our students is 670. I think that's very high. And about a third of our students will get scores above 700. I want to make sure you have realistic expectations. But I also want to make sure you have a plan. So let's talk about the plan for just a couple of minutes, and then we'll take some more questions. And Jan has been answering the questions in the meantime, so thanks so much, Jan. I'm going to use the analogy of learning how to drive a car. Remember, we said this is a test of reasoning skills. It's not the test of knowing something. It's a test of being able to deal with questions. The questions come at you very quickly. So imagine this, you're driving on a highway, 120 kilometers an hour. You have to react very quickly. So would it be enough to read a book about how to drive a car? Absolutely not. But it is important. That's why, as the first step to your preparation for the GMAT, you must learn some theory. That's very, very important. So how do you learn the theory? Well, there are lots of books and resources. The official GMAT guide gives you an overview of the basic theory. For example, what's a unit digit and what's a triangle, what's an area of a right triangle, and so on. Make sure you don't just know the theory, but you actually are able to apply it. That's why if you come to our class, we are going to give you access to the resource where you're going to be practicing all of these formulas and definitions. And you can do this on your phone. You can do this all throughout the day. Essentially, you're going to just do lots of practice on simple exercises just to make sure you're comfortable calculating, for example, an area of a trapezoid. So that's step one in learning how to drive a car. Step two, you need to start getting into a car at some point, right? And here's the thing. When you learned how to drive a car, you probably didn't just say, Mom, Dad, give me the keys. They told you, you got to go and take some classes. You got to learn from someone how to actually do this. The same thing with the GMAT. You can come and learn from us. I'm really grateful that you came here today. You can learn from your friends. You can learn from YouTube videos as well. And unfortunately, YouTube videos don't often give you feedback, but it really depends on your ambitions of how high of a score do you want to get. But it's really important that you recognize that this is an important step, that you're learning the skill. It's not just, well, I know the formula. Which formula do I need to use and how do I avoid these traps? And here's something really important. Many people believe that you can succeed on the GMAT by simply practicing a lot. Basically, they say practice makes perfect. And the challenge, unfortunately, that this is not true. Practice doesn't make perfect if we practice something that doesn't work. That's why it's very important that we learn good strategies. We first learn the strategies that work, and then we practice. Imagine practicing how to drive a car without ever learning how to drive a car. That's very dangerous. And that's why on the GMAT, even though it doesn't seem as dangerous, over 95% of people will give up and never do the test and potentially just say, okay, I'm not going to do my MBA, potentially giving up hundreds of thousands of dollars or maybe millions of dollars in earnings over their careers just because they didn't properly recognize how to prepare for the test. So this is very, very important. If you decide to come to us, you're going to be in a small class. We're going to teach you all the best strategy. We'll explain exactly how things work. We'll tell you about all the traps, all the games that the GMAT's trying to play. We'll show you how to use a more of a mastery approach. And then we'll make sure that in a class, you get an opportunity to practice this yourself so that if something doesn't work yet for you, just because of some of the old habits or because it's so new, you're going to be able to get that feedback. And then, of course, practice is still going to be important. I said practice is not going to make perfect necessarily, but if you know the right strategies, the right approaches, then by doing more and more practice, you're going to develop new habits. And I love this phrase, actually, practice makes a habit, because the more you practice something, the more it becomes like a second nature. And on the day of the test, trust me, you don't have time to overthink. You have to react so quickly and you're somewhat stressed out. So a lot of the things have to become almost automatic. That's why we give you lots of homework when you come to our class. And by the time you go for the test, you will have done probably a couple thousand questions and a few mock exams, and we're always here to help. So ladies and gentlemen, just to wrap up, 3 steps. Learn the theory first, then learn these strategies. Don't just attempt doing a bunch of questions. Learn how to do them first and then practice. If you'd like us to help you through this process, then come and join us. We here at AdmitMaster, we've been around for about 25 years, this company. I've been with this company for about 12 years now. We teach this program called GMAT Mastery. It's essentially a 6 or 12-week program. You're in a fairly small class, usually about 10 to 15 people. You can join our classes either in person or online, depending on where you are located. And the classes are on evenings or on weekends. So then they're outside of your work schedule. If you are in North America, our class, actually, we had a class that started yesterday, an amazing group of people. You can still join that class and still have the time to take the classic version of the GMAT. If you'd like to get that 700 plus score, then the next course is going to start on December 2nd, which is going to be a weekend class. It won't give you enough time to take the classic version of the test, but that's going to start preparing you now for GMAT Focus. There are some options also to prepare for the test on your own. You can see some demos, some samples, and we have an option where you work with the instructor's help under the instructor's guidance, and there are also options where you work completely on your own, which is GMAT Express. So some people might say, well, look, why would I join this program? I can just take a bunch of real tests and see when I'm ready. But see, the GMAT Express program costs less than one exam. So your entire preparation for the test could be less than the cost of one exam. And the exam itself is expensive. It's $300 US. And the GMAT Express program costs less than that. So, and it includes multiple mock exams, so you can actually get ready. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to encourage you, at least if you are on a strict budget, go to admitmaster.com/offer and get a free 7-day trial of the GMAT Express program, just so you can start learning some strategies. And if you'd like to upgrade, there's going to be a nice discount code. And if you are the kind of person who just says, look, I want the best possible outcome for me, then join our live classes. So ladies and gentlemen, where do we go from here? Well, first of all, we're going to take some questions now. But before we do that, I'd like to ask you a very simple question. And that is, what's next for you? How committed are you to this journey? And if you are, then I'd love for us to talk. We can talk about different options. We can talk about refresher classes. I'm happy to take a look at your practice test. So if you'd like to take a practice test, you can go at mcgill.trygmat.com. We're going to send you a link to all of these. You can send me an email. Just ask me to take a look at your practice test. I can give you some suggestions. Look, like I mentioned, I love my work. Obviously, we get paid for teaching classes, but I'm happy to help people even outside of the classes. So reach out, sign up for that one-on-one consultation. Happy to chat, happy to talk about what might potentially work for you and how you could potentially still make it to the January 31st deadline. Okay, wow, there was a lot that we tried to cover in a very short time. Again, happy to chat one-on-one. You can go on our website and book a consultation for about 20 minutes. And we can certainly talk about your personal situation. You can send me your resume as well. So we have a few questions here, and Jan has been so gracious in answering these questions in a Q&A box. Here's some more questions. What are the dates available to take the GMAT test by the end of the year? The GMAT is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week online, and it's available 6 days a week at most of the in-person test centers. So you can take it practically any day whenever you're ready. What's the average GMAT score for the MMR program? I guess, Jan, maybe you can answer this question.
So I don't have the number by my heart for the MMR program. You can send an email to me. I'm going to put my email in the chat. Reach out to me, and then I will get back to you with the MMR program's average. I'm going to just contact the program, and then because I don't want to give you a wrong information, I hope to give you the correct information. So just send me an email. I'm going to get back to you. So if you're wondering, for the MBA is 675. For the MMA is not in the website, but is if I remember correctly, last cohort is really close to 700, like almost 700. And then for the MMF is 694. For the MMR, I need to verify and then get back to you. And then I see another one, I guess, is probably also related to my presentation. So that's regarding on the work experience. So for the MBA program, we count your work experience after you finish your undergraduate. So anything that you did before your undergraduate, you finish your undergraduate, like internship or anything that is part-time or research, will not count as work experience. So it really have to be after your graduation, and then we count until before you start the program. So for example, if you're interested in joining us in 2024 August, so we count until that time. And then it's not required regarding on the industry. So it can be anything that is related to your background. Like we don't really have a particular industry that we preferred. So there's no requirement on that. Is there any other questions that I can help with?
I think there are a couple of questions here for me. When does next year cycle start for the classic version of the GMAT? January 1st. The classic GMAT is going to be available up to January 31st. So that's the last day. So you can take this any day of the year between now and January 31st. As of February 1st, you will have to take the GMAT Focus. What options are there for international students who would like to take the GMAT? Well, it depends on the country. The GMAT in person is available in the majority of the countries. The online GMAT is also available in the majority of the countries. In some countries, the GMAT online is not available because of certain regulations or certain sanctions regimes. For example, the online exam, the in-person exam is not available in, let's say, Iran. The online exam is not available, let's say, in China. Because of certain government regulations. So please check MBA.com and you will see what is available. But in most of the countries, you can take either the in-person GMAT or the online GMAT on your own computer. Okay, so some other questions. Can I do the GMAT exam? So now in the chat box, can I do the GMAT exam without a bachelor's degree and apply to a master's program, provided I have 25 years of work experience and university studies that I could not combine with program bachelor degree? I guess that's a question for you, Jan. Is it possible to do an MBA program or a master's program without a bachelor's degree if somebody has a lot of work experience?
So if you don't have a bachelor degree, I guess for taking the GMAT exam, they don't really care about degree. But to apply for master's program, yes, you do need a bachelor degree. That's the minimum requirement to apply for a master's program. So first of all, you need to have your bachelor degree, and then you can, for MBA program, they require 2 years of work experience, but for specialized master's program, they don't require work experience. So a bachelor degree, yes, that's something that you have to have.
And there's also a degree that's called Executive MBA program. And does Executive MBA at McGill require a work experience? Because I know sometimes there are exceptions for Executive MBA.
So for EMBA,
sorry, you require a bachelor's degree.
Yeah, so for EMBA, you still need to have a bachelor degree, and then you need to have over 10 years of work experience with 5 years of managerial experience. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And I see another question for what does MBA average daily in class hour look like? So for it really depends on when it comes to the electives, it depends on what are the classes that you are choosing, because everyone will have a different schedule. But for the core semester, since everyone will have a similar like it's a fixed schedule, so everyone is having the same classes. So normally that's a half-day class. Is either in the morning or in the afternoon, and then you have the other half class really for group work, for workshops, for a lot of one-to-one career coach consultation, or attend those networking events and those recruitment events. So you're pretty busy, even though you are not taking for the half day that you're not taking classes. So it is quite intense. And then I also see another question, I guess, is related to like for the GMAT waiver, or which program require a GMAT, how like which one doesn't. So it's really different, depends on the program, depends on their situation. So for MBA program, you always have to take the GMAT. There's no waiver for GMAT in any circumstances. And then for the specialized masters, so for MMF program for finance, if you did your undergraduate in Canada, then you don't need to take the GMAT. And then for the other two specialized masters, which is the analytics and retailing, so if you did your undergraduate in Canada or US, then you don't need to take the GMAT. And then for our very, very new program, the MMA, the analytics online program, the GMAT is waived just for 2024, like just for the like the current one that is open. So the one which is starting on 2025 January. So because we understand there's not really enough time for the student to do the GMAT, because the program application will the final deadline is on December 1st. So sometimes like it's normal that students are not able to take the test because the limited of time. So this is a very new program. The first cohort is going to start in January. So only for 2025 January MMA online cohort, the GMAT is waived. So you can see which program you are interested, and then what is your own situation to see whether you need to take the GMAT or not.
There's a question here. Do you have a station in Ghana? I need the in-person. So I'm not sure if you refer to the exam itself or our preparation. We are located in Canada, so our in-person classes are in Canada only, as well as sometimes in New York City. But in terms of the exam itself, please check mba.com. You might need to create an account at mba.com, and then when you go to register for the exam, the first step would be to see available options. So please see which one's closest to you. But in terms of our classes, they are available anywhere in the world through the live online link. And if you were to join our class, then we're going to be able to interact, and you'll be on the video camera as well. We have many students from Africa who are taking our live classes. There's a question here to you, Jan. Would having post-graduation experience hinder my chances to the MMF program?
Sorry, would you mind to repeat that question again?
Would having a work experience hinder my chances to the MMF program?
Well, it really depends. It really will take everything into consideration. So, since we don't have the whole profile, it depends on what kind of work experience. Depends on also your other components. For example, what is your GMAT score? What is your GPA? And how do you perform for an interview? So it really depends. I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Please reach out. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so somebody is also saying, I obtained my bachelor degree in 2021, applying to MMA. Must I write the GMAT test? I guess it depends on where you're located, right?
Yeah, it depends on where you get your undergraduate degree. If you get it in Canada, then you don't need to do it. A GMAT is not required. And then I see another question asked, someone has already applied and then want to see what is the next step. You can reach out to me so we can talk about this privately after the information session. So you get my email over there, so reach out to me.
Okay, somebody's saying here also, do I need to evaluate my transcript?
So when you're applying, you don't need to have the official transcript sent to us. So you just need your unofficial transcript translated to English or French. And then we will start with your unofficial transcript. And then after we evaluate your transcript, and then if you got accepted or you accept our offer, and then that time you need to send us your original transcript, official transcript directly from your university to us. So you don't need to do the evaluation, the equivalence for the transcript. We have a team to do that.
Perfect, thank you. There's a question here also from the same person. I'm international, don't have experience with GMAT, would like my teaching to be in person for better understanding. I would like to know if Admit Master has a station in Ghana. Unfortunately, we do not have a station in Ghana. So when you are deciding really how to prepare for the test, you need to compare the offerings that are available in Ghana in person versus what might be available. So sometimes you can get a higher quality instruction through a live online class, or maybe a better value instructions through a live online class. Unfortunately, the GMAT preparation in person isn't available in too many cities. In fact, in North America, the in-person preparation is now available only in 2 or 3 cities in the entire North America, whereas it used to be available before the pandemic in many, many more cities. So right now, it's very hard to find an in-person GMAT class. We're still one of the very few companies that does that. But I'd like to encourage you to reach out and we can talk a little bit more and you can see some samples and maybe participate in a demo class just to see what it's like. Is it recommended to take the GMAT online or in person? Is there any difference? Yes, there is a difference. There's a small difference in price. The online exam is more expensive. And also the online exam is something you're going to take from home, but statistically, based on experience of hundreds of our students, I can tell you the online exam for most people is more stressful. So generally we recommend, if possible, take the in-person exam. And if you do take the online exam, make sure that you know the exact rules and regulations. You do the test on your computer and you know exactly what to expect, because it's very easy to get into trouble with the online exam. The GMAT is very strict on any even potential opportunity for cheating or doing something that's against the rules. It's a lot harder to break the rules in a test center. It's a lot easier to do that at home. So we heard a lot of horror stories of, let's say, a cat walking in the door and the exam got canceled. So make sure that you know the exact rules if you don't have an option to take the exam in person. Is the GMAT exam free? No, we said it's not free. It's $300 US. Is the GMAT a requirement for someone to apply to McGill scholarship? Well, just like Jan said, it is a requirement to apply to an MBA program. There are no waivers, and for other master's programs, it is sometimes required. Is it required to apply for a scholarship? Well, it generally increases your chance of getting a scholarship, but is it required, Jan?
So to apply for, as I mentioned, to your application to the program is your application for the inner scholarship. So the inner scholarship is not a full scholarship, because I saw there's a question saying get a free scholarship. I'm not sure, maybe when you say free scholarship, you mean a full scholarship. So the inner scholarship is not a full scholarship. It covers part of your tuition, depends on your situation. And the majority of the student will get something, but not everybody is getting it. It really depends on your profile. It's merit-based. So whether GMAT is required, it depends on the program that you applied. Of course, like whether you did your undergraduate degree. So if when you apply to the program, GMAT is not required, then you don't need to take the GMAT. If it is required, for example, for MBA program, there is no waiver in any circumstances, then you have to take the GMAT.
And overall, remember that just like Jan said, the scholarships are awarded based on merit. So essentially, if you have a good profile, competitive profile, and the admissions office believe that you will be very successful in the program and after the program, you will generally get an entrance award to encourage you to join this program. So by even if the GMAT might not be required, or a higher GMAT might not be required, you might potentially be able to strengthen your profile by taking the GMAT and achieving a high score. Do the department offer GA for international student? I'm not sure what that means. Do you know, Jan, what that might mean? GA
What
for
is the
international
GA? What is the GA short for?
I'm not quite sure, is the person's asking. Do the department offer GA for international students? Graduate assistantship.
Well, we do have an international student service department. So that serves the whole McGill, regardless of whether they are graduate or doctor or like undergraduate. So they do offer a lot of services, for example, not just mentally, but also for their insurance, for their visa. So you can reach out. I'm going to maybe put the link over there. Just give me 1 second. Let me get the link. So you can for housing and everything. So a lot of services over there.
Okay, perfect. Ladies and gentlemen, we're happy to answer more of your questions. The most important thing is for you to really determine whether MBA is the right choice for you. As you could see, I can tell you, I've been very privileged. That's why I love doing this work. When I graduated from my MBA program, I got a job in corporate finance, and I thought that this would be my dream job. And it was for some time, right? I worked in that field for about 10 years. I'm a numbers guy. I love finance. I love math. So I worked in a small team of data analysts for one of the big telecommunications firms for approximately 10 years. And at some point I decided, look, I love working with people. I love helping people. And I've been very privileged to have amazing teachers in my life. And that's why sometimes people come to me and say, well, this was the best class I've ever taken. And I say, look, this is just my tribute to people who taught me. And I work with really amazing instructors. Some of them have more experience than I do teaching the GMAT. So I can tell you that by working through so many people, and I worked with over 25,000 people, I heard many times that the MBA was a life-changing experience for many people. It's the best decision they've ever made. Many people come back to us, recommend their friends, brothers and sisters. They just say, look, you helped me change my life, and I'd love for you to help this person as well. So I always say, look, we're just taking a small part. We helped you along the way. You did all the work. So this is a big commitment, but it's certainly a life-changing experience. An MBA changed my life completely. I wouldn't have had these opportunities had I not done an MBA. And doing an MBA from a prestigious top school such as McGill will certainly put you on a different playing field. So it is not just another academic degree. It is really an investment in your professional future. There are many opportunities, even if you come from a place where you don't maybe have as many savings. you certainly could. I mean, when I did my MBA, I had almost zero in my savings account. I had to borrow money, and it was a lot of money. To me, I had to borrow close to $100,000 almost 20 years ago. It was a lot of money at that time, right? But I paid it off in 4 years because I was making so much more money when I graduated. So it's definitely an investment. You are taking, some people are saying, look, I'm taking a little bit of a risk, right? Nothing in life comes without some sort of a calculated risk. But the return on investment from the MBA programs is some of the best returns on investment you can have in anywhere. If you ask the best investor in the world, Warren Buffett, arguably, what's the best investment? Warren's going to say the best investment is investment in yourself. This is a big investment. This is a very important investment. It is not for everyone, but it's certainly for people who are very ambitious, who want to change the world, make the world a better place, become the leaders of the world, or maybe of a company, or maybe of your community, maybe of your own small business, and certainly along the way, make a lot of money and touch the lives of other people. That's why, as you can see, I'm very, very passionate about this. I just saw so many people change their lives by doing an MBA, and I'm very grateful to be a part of this journey for them. So if you'd like to explore more of what the MBA might potentially mean to you, I'd like to encourage you, connect with Jan, have this discussion, talk about whether this is the right fit. Just like our program isn't the right fit for everyone, the McGill MBA isn't the right fit for everyone, but it might be the right fit for you. And that's why you owe it to yourself to connect with us and have that discussion. As a minimum, you're going to get a lot more insights into what actually it's going to take to change your life. And as a maximum, we might work together for you to actually go through this journey and achieve your dreams at the end. So that's my wish for you is, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that we speak again, but most importantly, keep your dreams alive. If this is important to you, you definitely have the right resources and you have what it takes. And it's not about having a lot of money. It's not about being from a privileged background. I came from a very poor background, from a country that's now in the middle of the war. And I was able to build my life here in North America, well, mostly thanks to my decision to do an MBA program at some point. So that's my wish for you. I hope that you achieve your dreams. Thanks again for joining us very much. You have our contact information. Please check your email for more resources, a recording of this class as well. And please tell your friends to come and join us. Send them a link to our next refresher class. Help them connect with Jan as well. Go to different information sessions by McGill MBA and make sure you start getting the ball rolling on this journey so that you could get the most information that will help you make the best decision. And Jan, thanks so much for joining us as well. Is there anything you'd like to add just before we close?
Well, I wish everyone really good luck with your study, and then reach out to me if you have any other questions or if you need any help along the way. I'm here to help. Thank you for joining us today.
Perfect. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks very much, Jan, for joining us as well. And everyone, have a wonderful rest of the week. Take care.